Howdy freeze dryers, welcome back to the Live Life Simple Kitchen. It's been a while since I've done a Mountain House versus a Harvestright Home Freeze dried food recipe, so today we're gonna get right into that. We're gonna do some chicken fried rice from Mountain House, and then we're gonna make our own version of it. We're gonna make our recipe from scratch. We're gonna make it with all fresh ingredients, and we're also gonna do a head-to-head cost comparison per serving for what the Mountain House will cost you versus our recipe today. We're gonna do all that coming up. So this is technically 2 servings, it's 4.7 ounces, but really what I'm concerned about is if there's any extra ingredients in here. This is actually a lot better than a lot of them that I've seen, so not terrible. A lot of the same ingredients that we're gonna put in our homemade recipe today. Now we'll get a close-up on this, and you can see there's usually a very scarce amount of chicken. If there's any meat at all, it's usually a very small amount. Not a lot of peppers, not a lot of peas. Mostly rice and sauce, and then whatever these things are, I'm not sure. This is probably some kind of egg mixture that they're talking about. That probably kind of helps the texture when it's rehydrated. All right, well I think we've picked on Mountain House enough, so I'm gonna get our recipe going. We're gonna start with some brown rice because that's gonna take the longest. We want 4 cups of cooked brown rice. I'm gonna actually start, I think, with 2 cups of raw, see where that gets us, see if that'll get us our 4 cups. When you're cooking rice in your Instant Pot, you always do a 1-to-1 ratio, so however much raw rice plus that same amount of water will get you the results that you want. So we'll add our 2 cups of water, we're gonna put our lid on, and then we're gonna do a pressure cook for 15 minutes, and then we're gonna do 5 minutes of natural release. Next, we're gonna cook 1 pound of chicken, and we're gonna cook that in about 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. If you do not want the oil in the chicken, I would recommend trying to cook it in a vegetable broth or something like that. I think since it is only 2 tablespoons of oil, we should be able to get away with it just because it's spread out over lots and lots of cups of food. We're gonna fully cook this, and then we're actually gonna separate this, reuse this pan, but I'm gonna dice up my chicken into I think some smaller pieces than what I have it right now. Now we're gonna add a little bit more sesame oil or broth or whatever you're gonna cook your vegetables in. We're gonna add 3/4 of a cup of peas. We're gonna do 3/4 of a cup of carrots, and then 1/8 of a cup to 1/4 of a cup of chopped onions. And we're gonna cook that for about 3 minutes until these start to soften up. And then we're gonna add a little garlic. Add 2 to 3 cloves of diced garlic. We're gonna cook that for another minute. Let all that good flavor kind of stir around. Now we're gonna put all of our veggies to one side of the pan. And we're gonna take 3 eggs and then just kind of beat them like you're gonna scramble them, because more or less that's what you're gonna do. We're gonna cook them on the other side of this pan. And we're gonna add our chicken back in, as well as our 4 cups of cooked rice. And it looks like our 2 cups of uncooked gave us probably about 5 cups of cooked. So we'll have a little extra. That's fine because I'm gonna need some more for the next batch that I do. This is definitely not gonna fill up all 5 trays. So we're gonna cook all of this together. We're gonna mix all of it together. We're gonna cook in about 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. You can go more or less depending on how much soy sauce. Some people are a little salt sensitive. Some people like the extra soy sauce. Now let's see how far this gets us. Our recipe gets us on a large freeze dryer tray. Large typically holds 6 to 8 cups of whatever you're doing. I don't necessarily like to go above 8 cups. All right, well that looks just about perfect for me. I put mine a little bit more thin. I think that you could probably, if you really pushed it, you could squeeze this whole recipe onto a medium as well. I'm gonna drop dividers into the 10 portion configuration. I think that will probably give us about what Mountain House is calling their serving size. I'm gonna do this recipe 4 more times and then I'll have enough for my large freeze dryer. I am going onto pre-cut parchment paper, and I'm also using our stackers from Freeze Drying Supplies. And I'm gonna change it up a little bit today. I'm gonna run a full cycle in the freeze dryer, so as soon as I have my other 4 trays done, I'll meet you in the freeze drying room. Well, here we go with our chicken fried rice. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please take a minute to do so. We do mostly freeze drying and some homesteading on this channel. And while you're there, take a minute to click that bell to get notifications of all future videos that come out. For us, that's Sundays at 8 a.m. And if you found this content helpful, make sure you give us a thumbs up. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm, helps other freeze dryers see our videos. And if you want to check out the Harvestright freeze dryer, make sure you use our affiliate link. That will be in the description of the video down below, and that gives us content creators just a bit of a commission. We put that commission back into our Facebook and our MeWe groups, which is a totally free resource for all freeze dryers. It helps us do free giveaways in those groups. It helps us maintain the groups. It also helps us develop products for freeze drying supplies. So any of the products that you've seen in the green here today or the parchment paper, those are all products that we've developed in an attempt to make freeze drying as streamlined and as quick and painless as we possibly can. So now let's let the freeze dryer do its thing, and then we'll go total up some costs of our homemade freeze-dried chicken fried rice. Okay, well, I caught this right after it finished up at about 42 hours, 30 minutes, somewhere in there. So here's our chicken fried rice. I'm gonna put a thermometer on this, make sure we're completely done, and we're gonna bag it up. All right, so what I've done to make this all even Steven, I've put 4.75 ounces, just like the Mountain House version. That ended up being just about 3 and a little bit of the 4th of these squares. Being realistic, Mountain House calls theirs a 2 serving. I don't really think it's a 2 serving. I think it's probably about a 1.5 serving. So I would say, for the sake, if you're gonna actually do this for yourself, 2 of these squares would be plenty for 1 serving. So when it comes time to compare our costs, I'm gonna do 3/10. So now I'm gonna seal our test bag, and that way we have a comparable product to the Mountain House. Okay, here we go, head to head. We've got our test bag on the right side here, and our Mountain House on the left side. I'm gonna get a close up here because this is really the first time that I have seen, when I'm doing these Mountain House versus videos, that this is very comparable. In fact, I don't know that I could really even tell you the difference, other than the Mountain House has these little chunks. I think this is like their egg mixture maybe, but really similar as far as the ingredients, as far as the look. Let's see how they taste. So the instructions for the Mountain House say to add 1.5 cups of boiling water. So I've boiled 1.5 cups in a tea kettle. And just from my past experience, the Mountain House directions has also applied to my home version. So I'm gonna do 1.5 cups of boiling water to ours as well. We're gonna mix it. We're gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes covered, and then we'll add a little bit more time to it. All right, let's give this one more mix, and then it's gonna sit for 4 minutes. And I think, to me, this seems like a lot of extra water, but I'm wondering if maybe it just because of the rice, it takes a while for the rice mixture to soak up that extra water. All right, let's test out our Mountain House. There's a little bit of egg chunk. It almost looks like the yolk when you hard boil an egg and then freeze dry it. This chicken fried rice to me looks really creamy. It's almost like it has a sauce or something. You're obviously not gonna rehydrate to the regular chicken fried rice texture because it's fried. This is probably one of the better Mountain House meals that I've tasted. And it actually tastes like more of a home cooked. The vegetables actually rehydrate pretty well. There's bigger chunks, I guess if you want to say that, of vegetables. I did notice that they use dark meat chicken, and I've mentioned in the past that a lot of Mountain House's ingredients seem like they're cheap ingredients. Let's try our homegrown here. I think that I did add a little bit too much water. You could probably cut back the water if you use my recipe. There is definitely a difference between a commercially freeze-dried food and home fresh ingredients, and definitely a difference in the flavor. But these are without a doubt the closest matchup I have seen between the Mountain House and the home freeze-dried, probably because it's just kind of a simple ingredients type recipe. But something I think is really important is what it does to your pocketbook. So let's do the math and figure out apples to apples what these cost. So for our home freeze-dried, I tallied up all of our recipe ingredients. That was about $1.40 for our serving size. If you add in a Mylar bag, an oxygen absorber, and the electricity for 3/10 of one tray, that equals about 93 cents. That brings our grand total to $2.33 for an equal-sized portion to the Mountain House. The Mountain House, interestingly enough, actually went up in price since I started making this video. The cheapest I could find it was $9.99, all the way up to $12. So if you've watched me do these versus videos in the past, you know that our home freeze-dried is always less expensive than Mountain House or whatever we're comparing it against. Obviously you have the cost of the freeze dryer, which is quite expensive, but if you use it, if you put it to work, the savings add up very, very quick, and the quality of the food is always quite a bit better, and you know what you're getting in the finished product. In the meantime, this is Retired at 40. Remember to live life simple. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for sticking around.